Today on Locked On Rockies, somehow, some way, the Rockies win that game last night when they had really no business winning it.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 14th day of May in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day is talk Rockies baseball, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show, firing off your Rockies hot takes, letting me know what's on your mind there. Be part of the show. Let me know what's going on. Locked On Rockies YouTube channel continues to grow. You can be part of that growth. You can help the show out by subscribing, liking the videos. When you do that stuff, folks, it really, really does help. I promise you, you can't go wrong with helping out your boy like that. Today, we're going to talk about the game last night, and a game indeed played for the Rockies. There, things to like, things to absolutely hate, but somehow, some way, the Colorado Rockies hang on. I mean, realistically, the best way to describe that game is they ain't winning that game in last month. They ain't winning that game last week. I mean, in terms of where this team was and has been, the confidence level in a team being able to pull off a win like that, you just was non-existent until they did it last night. Before we dive into everything today, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase. So make sure you're hitting this all lowercase. LockedOnMLB, all lowercase, not part of the code, for a first deposit match up to $100. All right. So when you walk 12 batters in a game, right? When you walk 12, you're probably sitting there and saying, most likely not winning that game. But bases loaded, game on the line, multiple walks. Manny Machado comes up, swings the first pitch, grounds into a double play. Machado's got to take a pitch there. It's Manny Machado. You're, of course, incredibly confident of him to get the job done. I don't even know where to start with that. Because you sit here and you're like, hey, Dakota Hudson, 5 2/3, only giving up the 3 hits, which were home runs, really, that were the damage dealers there for the Padres. I'm pretty sure all of their scoring came on home runs last night. If I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure Jurickson Profar, man, talk about a guy that just has found where he wants to be. Jurickson Profar wants to be in San Diego and wants to hit for them because, man, just a completely different ball player, especially on offense, as he just launches one. I mean, the Padres, they can hit home runs, man. They got some real thump in that lineup. Profar, Bogarts, and Jackson Merrill all hitting home runs. Interestingly enough, all 3 of them back to back in the lineup as well. I don't the home runs obviously not coming back to back, but interesting that that's how it ended up being there. But nearly every member of the Padres walked last night. Xander Bogaerts was the example of not walking. Ha-Seong Kim walked 3 times last night. Baseball's weird like that. I mean, the Rockies are on a roll and they benefit. I mean, if it was any other team, if the Rockies were playing literally any other team in baseball last night and they walked that many people and it was bases loaded like that, I think they lose that game. I am last night further proves that I wholeheartedly believe that the Rockies are a curse upon the San Diego Padres. There have just been so many instances and things where games get weird between these two teams. And it's always, I mean, one of the, obviously one team always wins. It's one team benefits or somehow survives in the absolute wackiness. And the other team just frustratingly does not and has a million opportunities. I mean, the Padres, it was nuts. 12 free passes. I mean, the Rockies out hit the Padres yesterday by 9-4. If you add in the walks there, it would have been 16-9 in terms of hits. But the Padres played sloppy too. I mean, the Rockies didn't cash in, which that was the biggest, when you're talking about my biggest critique of outside of the walks yesterday. The Rockies were bad in the clutch yesterday, especially late in that game. They had a lot of chances to get some bonus runs, and Beck went through a learning moment. I mean, that's a rookie bonehead move there. And Montero didn't tag up either. That base running when the Rockies were gifted runners on second and third late in that ball game in the eighth. Or was it the eighth or the ninth? I can't remember. But when you have that opportunity and it's squandered the way the Rockies did, and then the bottom of the ninth goes the way it starts off the way that it does, it changes things. I mean, it shows you how much the little things matter and the little moments matter. The little momentum shifts matter in baseball. The Rockies were able to hold on every time, but man, when you were sitting pretty for most of that game, that's why it's not enough to go up 5-0, especially for the Rockies, or 5-1, because the Rockies after the big inning basically got set down in order. I mean, they weren't doing anything, and then that gives a good team like the Padres the ability to start chipping away. And before you know it, your 5-run lead's down to a 3-run lead, 2-run lead, 1-run lead, bases loaded, bottom of the ninth, with Manny Machado up. So realistically, you just kind of have to, the luck went the Rockies' way. I mean, that's a little lucky. It's talent for sure, but you get a little lucky if you can survive that. I mean, you get lucky that Manny Machado goes up and swings and hits the first pitch he sees into the dirt. There's a little luck involved in that win because it wasn't pretty. Offense, decently enough. The Padres bullpen's legit. I mean, you saw those numbers from the Padres bullpen when they're coming out. So for the Rockies to go out and do damage against the starter, get the big runs, throw the first punch, that's exactly what the Rockies need to continue to do. But it's tough when then the bullpen comes in and you strike out 6 times against them and only get 1 hit in 5 1/3 innings from the Padres bullpen. But going out there and chasing, this is this was a real good boost for the Rockies here in terms of getting after a starter. No strikeouts, 1 walk, 5 earned on 8 hits. And obviously a little benefit too from some defensive miscues there from the Padres, but that's what you got. That's the type of start the Rockies need to continue to have, especially on the road. We've seen the Rockies come out in the first game on the road and be a little bit more pumped up, a little more energized, and show off some offense. Now on this long extended road trip, it's again repetition. Do it again. Don't walk 12 people again, but continue the good things. Continue the solid stretches and continue to work. I mean, we know this team is improving on the plate discipline. It just wasn't happening so much yesterday. But the Rockies still get a couple of they only get 1 walk on the day from Brenton Doyle there. So it's a drastic difference with the amount of free passes the other teams get, and it just puts so much pressure. Yesterday's game was not on the offense necessarily, because the offense was performing. Multiple people had hits in the game. Everybody in the lineup except Elias Diaz and Brenton Doyle end up with hits there. But you survive. And that's the sign of things improving for the Rockies here, at least in this week. 12 walks is terrible, but they won. 12 walks any other week in the season, we're losing by 16 again. We're losing by 15. It's a carousel, and it's no excuse. I mean, the way missing the zone as badly as the bullpen did last night is inexcusable for the Rockies. You simply cannot, especially Dakota Hudson, who has fought tooth and nail to get a win, to bounce back from his tough start. And he put, not pretty again, but that's your 5th start in the rotation type of stuff that you're getting from Dakota Hudson. But then to back it up with not a single one of the Rockies pitchers they used yesterday avoids the crooked number on walks. It's just inexcusable. It just is that's something that hopefully will be the anomaly. But unfortunately, we've seen the problem with walks all season long. It's just impressive to see the Rockies survive that. 12 walks should be a death sentence. for a game, especially for the Rockies. But, that's poise. Justin Lawrence got the ground ball when he needed it, even when he struggled. Beeks got the ground ball when he needed it yesterday. And the Rockies have won 5 straight. If you're going to go on winning streaks, you win games like those. You steal games like those. And if you're San Diego, you're sitting there fuming because the Rockies once again irritate and frustrate the heck out of you. I want to talk about Brendan Rodgers and his bounce back right now because he's now put together a solid stretch. It's not just a week. It's not just 2 weeks. You can go back and now look at Brendan Rodgers' numbers now and over 100 at-bats. And we're seeing the Brendan Rodgers we're a little bit more familiar with as his story continues the trend of his career of slow start to the season starts heating up here and is becoming an impact. We're going to talk about that coming up here in segment number 2, today's episode of Locked on Rockies. Before we do that, though, we got to tell you about some of the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes PrizePicks. PrizePicks, you love daily fantasy, don't you? Of course you love daily fantasy sports. Why not go play on the number 1 daily fantasy sports app that has more than 3 million members? It's super easy, and all you got to do is this. You pick more or less on players' stats. So take basketball. You want Jamal Murray 3-pointers. You want Nikola Jokic rebounds. Aaron Gordon 3-pointers as well. You pick more or less, and that builds up your little sheet, and you can watch the winnings roll in. I call it a sheet because it's right there on a phone. Every time I see a phone, and it kind of reminds me of a sheet of paper, still call it a sheet, But, you can get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. PrizePicks is the best way to get on the action on sports in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. And PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions and special offers for the biggest moments in sports. And does it get much bigger than NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, baseball? Everything's going on right now on the sports calendar, just about. You can see it all and get in on the fun at PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's code LOCKEDONMLB when you download the PrizePicks app and get a first deposit match up to $100. That's a $100 first deposit match on PrizePicks when you download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB. PrizePicks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. This is the Locked on Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked on Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. Hey, check us out on the Locked on Rockies YouTube channel. Support the show. Be part of the show. Fire off your Rockies hot takes, your comments in the comments section. Let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. And, hey, a couple of notes for you here as well. Catch all the Rockies action this year on SiriusXM and the SiriusXM app. Just search Colorado Rockies. You're going to get all your play-by-play for the Colorado Rockies there. Don't miss out on all the fun. And don't miss the Locked on Sports Today 24/7 live stream. If you're watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and have to turn down the volume because of all that shouting, you can make the switch to Locked on Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest storylines without all the screaming. Well, I do some screaming around here. Locked on Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. We're talking Rockies baseball. We're talking Rockies somehow surviving that game last night because I threw my hands up. I'm self-admitting here. When you walk that many people and you're the Colorado Rockies, as history tells us, I throw my hands up and I'd say that's a loss. Because golly, man, I want so much more from Justin Lawrence, man. And he's capable. He comes in, 3 pitches, gets 3 outs. Next appearance for Lawrence, multiple walks, pressure's on. So infuriating, man. Because he has the talent. He's got the talent. It's just the control that's the big issue. That is such a problem. But it's, again, I love the fact that we have someone that can do what he does in terms of movement, funky arm angle, and everything. But when you can't hit the strike zone, it just changes everything. I don't care about the movement. I don't care about the funky arm motion at that point. I just care about you throwing strikes. And so I'm hoping that this is kind of, we get a Lawrence experience that evens out and smooths out as the year goes on. But we're already, we're getting into the middle of month 2 here. I mean, you got to get in your groove now. But hey, again, Rockies did survive that. So I mean, it's surprising to see here. Okay, so I wanted to talk about Brendan Rodgers in this segment here. And you look at the advanced stats for Brendan Rodgers before we do it. You're still worried. You're still worried that he's in the blue in just about every category. He's not really blowing you away in anything until you see this one right here in the middle. You see hard hit percentage and starting to creep up. And I think that is going to propel the way for Brendan Rodgers. It mixed with the fact that some of his other stuff you can see is, average exit velocity is close to average. X slugging, X batting average is, getting closer. The batting average above average there. There are things that you're encouraged by. The barrel percentage is still pretty low there. And the strike percentage and walk percentage still tough there for Brendan Rodgers as well. But let's take a look at the numbers. Let's dive in overall. These are, of course, factoring in the whole season and where he ranks in the percentile. Let's break it down, and we're going to start small sample size, and we're going to zoom out to big sample size for Brendan Rodgers. In the last 7 games for Brendan Rodgers, he's gotten up to bat 28 times. In that time, he's got 10 hits. He's walked twice, he's struck out 4 times, and he's got his first ever stolen base. That breaks down to 357 average of 400 OBP and a slugging of 357. Let's zoom out a little further. 15 games, and these are all from MLB.com, by the way. Last 15 games, 56 at-bats. He's gotten 20 hits in that time, scored 6 times. He's gotten an RBI, 6 walks to 13 strikeouts, a stolen base, and the average stays at 357, but the OBP and slugging improved to 419 and 393. We zoom out even further here. Now, so bigger sample size, but last 30 games here, that's a month worth of baseball there. 106 at-bats in that time. He scored 14 times and gotten 32 hits. One of them for a home run, 8 RBI, 9 walks to 27 strikeouts, and that stolen base, of course. And then the average, 302, 357, 396. Improvement. That's a month of improvement, especially when you're looking at and you're considering the fact that that he was really abysmal for the first part of most of the season batting. He did his batting average a little bit better than I thought in April, but in April, 265, 324, 397 was the line there. And when you're looking at things like RBI, for example, 7 RBI there, he's got to get that improved. He's got to get that up because he's only gotten the 1 RBI so far in May. And so I'd like to see that improve. But you're seeing in terms of the batting line for Brendan Rodgers an improvement in everything. This kind of goes hand in hand with that a little bit as well. The slugging is down. The slugging is down for Brendan Rodgers since April, but the batting average is up and the OBP is up. And for right now, for Rodgers to get out of that, I know he's got double potential. I know he's got base hit potential. But just to see that average increase over this month of games and that on-base percentage, that's encouraging for me. Now, the batting average is the one that gets the big jump here. In April, he bats 265. He's bat 326 so far in the month of May. And the OBP jumps from 324 to 367. So, not a massive improvement on base percentage, but still a solid improvement. Then you go back and you just look at the consistent hitting and you look at the hitting streak here. Brendan Rodgers has gotten 1 base hit in every game since May 5th. And when you go through the entire month of May, there's only 2 games that he's been held hitless in that entire stretch. When you look in April, hitless games for Brendan Rodgers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games without a hit in April for Brendan Rodgers. So that's the type of stuff that you're trying to see. And then what's really great to see too is, as we're talking about a good start into May, it started at the end of April. He had a 1, 2, 3, 4. He had a 5-game hitting streak at the end of April from April 23rd up until the 30th, snapping it on the 1st on his one of 2 hitless games so far in May. And then another 2-game hit streak snapped. And now he has gotten a hit in every game since May 5th. That's the type of adjustments we're trying to see from Brendan Rodgers there. And kind of an example of branching out and not branching out, I'm sorry, about sustainability, about sustained improvement, about, making sure, having it be day in and day out. That's what I've talked a lot about with the Rockies. It's got to be consistent. And right now, Brendan Rodgers' approach at the dish is consistent and good. Strikeouts, still a problem. That's a problem with all of the Rockies. But when you look at Brendan Rodgers in his last 5 games here, he's got 2 strikeouts, but they came in 1 game. So in the last 5 games, Brendan Rodgers is only 4 games. I'm sorry. If you go to 5 games, it's 3 strikeouts, and he struck out once against San Francisco and twice against Texas there, and he has 3 games with no strikeouts at all. Would like to see more walks from Brendan Rodgers, but clearly that adjustment for him of not being as aggressive of a hitter as he is. Of course, he's still going to be someone that's going to go up and swing and be aggressive. This is that the Rockies love to go up swinging. But it's encouraging that Brendan Rodgers is getting hits and getting on base through the hit mostly because he's not walking that much, but he's not striking out a ton. Still issues there. In May, he struck out 9 times here, but now he's had 5 games this month where he doesn't have a strikeout at all in that. So that's a good sign. That it's a sign that Brendan Rodgers is continuing to do his, it's continuing to adjust and continue to do what we've seen so far in his career, which is get better as the season goes on, because there's still plenty of baseball left in May. But if he can continue this, the pattern of some of these games with 0 strikeouts, he'll cut that He can cut that strikeout number down in the month of May, because he'd have to double the amount of strikeouts he has. But there's still basically, that amount of games left, and the Rockies are on the road. So the strikeouts will still be something to watch, but now we're a little more encouraged. We want to see some more walks from Brendan Rodgers, and we want to see home runs from Brendan Rodgers, or really extra base hits in general. Brendan Rodgers only has the 1 extra base hit in the month of May, as well as he's got, I think if my math is correct here, he's got 8 on the season so far, 8 total extra base hits there out of his hit total. So definitely something we want to see more of for Rodgers, but the trends for him are going in the right direction. And a lot of multi-hit games here in this as well. In the last 5 games for Brendan Rodgers, 3 out of the 5 have had were at least 2 hit ball games. So there's a lot. And we haven't even touched the tremendous defense. So, so that's as Brendan Rodgers is going to continue to be a player to watch. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens as the season goes on with Brendan Rodgers, not just in terms of performance, but where the Rockies' mindset is at with him. But we're seeing more examples of the Brendan Rodgers heat up as the season goes on here once again. Quick break, and then we're going to talk about, we'll do a little preview, and I'm going to briefly mention this, but it deserves much more time. The Rockies' aggression on the base paths is incredible, at least last night's. That is how you use your young players, and that is how you use Brendan Doyle. We're going to talk about that coming up here in just a moment on today's episode of Locked on Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Policygenius. Life insurance, it can be an intimidating topic, right? I mean, insurance in general, big conversation, big thought process, big things going on. Well, Policygenius is going to make it easy and simple for you. Policygenius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million worth of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. It's simple because they compare it. You can compare it. You can pick what you want for you. Find what's best for you by using the tools that Policygenius gives you. And if you are a little confused, a little overwhelmed, well, guess what? You can talk to a team of award-winning agents who will walk you through the process step by step. Your work life insurance policy may not be enough protection for your family's needs. So don't miss out and check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonmlb or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonmlb. Welcome back here into Locked On Rockies, wrapping things up on today's episode. 5-game winning streak. Man, didn't think we'd be saying that anytime soon for the Rockies, but here we are. We are indeed saying that. And man, it's a team that there's life, there's energy. And one of the areas that you can see that the impacts of this good stretch is playing is, man, this team is a lot more confident in stealing bases right now. Let me see. There was if you're not following Patrick Lyons and Manny Randawa on X, you're missing out because they always got the good stats here for the Rockies. Here's one from Manny. Manny Randawa says the Rockies just stole 19% of their season's total entering this game in 4 innings. 4 innings. That is. I mean, finally, this is the version of the Rockies we want to see. Even with the losing, they at least are aggressive. They at least are getting out there and moving. They're using Brenton Doyle's speed. It sounded, I was kind of listening to the broadcast yesterday, and Spilly was talking about Brenton Doyle's slow start, and I think he was talking about him being a little shook up a little bit from kind of some of the defensive plays. I mean, he's taken some crashes and already been doing some diving and covering a lot of ground there in center field this season so far. But it's just so much more entertaining when the Rockies are willing to be creative and do this. Having multiple guys steal bases in a game. I mean, I didn't even fathom that. Mixed with the fact that this team was, pretty ultra aggressive when it came to nabbing those stolen bases. It's so encouraging to see. I mean, if you're feeling confident enough to have Brendan Rodgers go out there, why not? I mean, that's great. It's absolutely incredible. Encouraging to see because I want to make sure that the Rockies aren't going to be over aggressive, but this is the modern way of baseball. Charlie Blackmon, Brenton Doyle, and Ezekiel Tovar stealing bases yesterday. 3 stolen bases in the game, and that's Charlie Blackmon. That's not elite speed. That's not opening up. But it just makes it so much more effective. It makes you the offense so much more dynamic, and it makes you able to threaten so much more when you can get runners moving, when you can have them be aggressive on the base pass. I'm hoping to dive more into this topic later because just don't have enough time to talk about it as important as I really think it is. But it's just something that highlights the Rockies are actually trying to be quicker on the base pass because they said that they were going to, and then the season started and they weren't really doing much on the base paths. Now they are, and now they're cooking a little bit. I mean, it's just everything. There's still a long way to go, and it needs to be even a 5-game winning streak is great. The stretch needs to continue, even if the winning streak gets snapped. It's again, how are they going to respond? How do they bounce back to that? But when you see the Rockies and how they're handling the challenges that are thrown at them over the past week, they've handled them. They've gone up in big situations. The Rockies have gotten the job done. They've navigated giving up home runs and the walks and things like that. They've gotten the crucial ground ball outs, and they've gotten big performances. We didn't talk today about Montero and his big day yesterday. The Rockies the Rockies don't win that game if Montero doesn't continue to drive in some runs and figure out his role on this team as well. He's quietly played a decent stretch during this win streak, playing some good first base as well. It's a 5-game win streak. It's the best stretch of the season for the Rockies. There's a lot of things you can sit there and focus on and be concerned about. But for now, it's just about enjoying the ride and seeing what they can continue to do. How do they and continue to build off of this? And if stealing more bases is the result of this winning streak, and then we see that throughout the rest of the season now, love it, because this team can steal more bases. And when you can steal more bases, you just put yourself in a better position on offense. Always better to have someone with speed chilling on second base than chilling on first base, especially at Coors Field. Rockies take on the Padres, try to make it 6 straight tonight. They will be heading against, let's see who the matchup is tonight before we sign off for today. We got Cal Quantrill going up against Dylan Cease. There you go. I mean, Cal Quantrill has been solid for the Rockies of late and solid for the Rockies this season. Now going up against one of the best in the business, and the Rockies got a challenge ahead of them. Dylan Cease, 60 strikeouts, just only 16 walks so far this season. So if the Rockies want to continue this win streak, it's going to come against one of the best in the business and a Padres team that's ready for a win. Rockies could get the series win, back-to-back series win, if they pull it off tonight. We'll see what happens. First pitch, 7:40 tonight. And, folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for joining us. And for your second listen, go check out Locked On MLB and stay up to date with all things Colorado sports. You got Locked On Nuggets and Locked On Avalanche breaking down all things playoffs. And you got Locked On Broncos and Locked On Buffs covering all the football action you need. I'm Paul Holden, host of Locked On Rockies, covering your Rockies for you. And we'll be back tomorrow right here on Locked On Rockies.